Okay, so I just encountered my first problem with the 500 SEC. This 1984 500 SEC is Euro spec. It is a unique vehicle. It has the blue interior, white exterior. Okay, all right, we're past that. Now, it has a idle issue. When you try to give it gas, it bogs down and it dies. It stumbles and eventually will die. At idle, it will have a high idle, but it stalls when you try to give it gas every time. What we're looking at right now is a fuel pump and a fuel filter. This is the underside, rear, behind, or just about right next to the rear passenger side tire. Now, I'm up underneath the car and I'm looking at the pump and the filter. These both are new. Symptoms that I had with the car is it would idle, but when you gave it gas, it would stall out. It had a hard time once it idled down. Now, when you first start the car, cold start, it would idle high and it would hold and idle. As soon as you try to give it gas, it would bog down. I took the carburetor off, or the air filter, whatever that top thing is, and I sprayed into the intake manifold with starter fluid while it was bogging down as the idle started to drop, and it seemed as if it was about to stall. And the idle smoothed out. It revved up and it smoothed out as long as I was spraying starter fluid. That indicates that the engine is starving for fuel. So the original pump was a smaller one. It was obviously old. It looked about 20 years old, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. So I swapped that out. And I first did the filter first just to see if the pump was still good, because it was making noise. Like, it wasn't loud or anything. It seemed to operate. It was putting pressure out because the car would hold idle, but it wasn't enough pressure to keep it, to give it the gas that it needed when the throttle was opened up. So I thought, well, maybe it was the filter. So I changed the filter out first with the original pump. That didn't work. The filter was okay. It wasn't a filter. The pump was the issue. So I put a new pump in, and yep, it immediately started to idle much better. Had the fuel that it needed. Cool. I have done also this replacement, this line right here, I replaced because the other one was starting to crack. And when you start to manipulate this, it started to seep gasoline out. So I changed that out as well. So new pump, new hose right here, fuel. This is make sure that it's a fuel line and not just a regular hose. It has to be able to hold that PSI, that pressure, and be able to stand up to the chemicals and the gases and all that kind of stuff. So make sure it is a gas line specifically. So this one was a little tight, a little smaller, but I was able to get it on there. Some of the newer pumps just have an inlet and an outlet that allows a hose to connect to it like this on both ends. This one right here has a hard line that feeds, that goes away from it. So this is the input. This is directly from the tank. All right, this is a solenoid. I don't know what this does. This line right here, I don't know where this line goes, but this is the line that feeds the pump. This is the output. This goes to the filter. And then from the filter, this goes to the front, to the fuel injectors. This is the output. Now, so driving it yesterday, I realized I had another problem. I started to lose fuel. I was gassing it. I was giving it some gas. I was opening this car up. This car sat in the garage for 20 years. So I was trying to get that second gear, right? And right as it hit second gear, I started to lose power and the car died. And it wouldn't start. So I was trying to figure out why. Well, it's kind of hard to see, but if you zoom in, this line here is ruptured. Now, I was concerned about this line touching the metal of the car, the bottom chassis of the car, because there is a bracket right here that is supposed to go to here. Let me zoom out. That is supposed to go to here, and that's supposed to keep this thing sitting up. Well, I guess over the years and just whatever has happened, this has broken off. This rubber right here that's supposed to absorb the bumps and everything broke off, and so it was dangling, and it was causing, you know, some pressure, or the weight of this was allowing this to rock back and forth like this and allowing that line to hit the chassis. And so I was wondering if that was going to cause a problem, and unfortunately I was right, and it ripped. So now I have to remove this line. This is the output from the filter. I got to remove that line, and I have to remove it up top up here where it connects. There is a connector up there. You can barely see it. And I have to replace that line or come up with some new way of connecting it to the output of the filter. Keep in mind that it's high pressure. Whatever way that I fix it, it has to work under high pressure conditions so that doesn't happen again. You do not want gasoline shooting out from up under your car at a high rate of speed with a hot exhaust system. And let me see, electrical connections would be going to the pump. You just don't want that. Anything can happen. Or somebody can throw out a cigarette butt and boom, your car is gone. So just things to think about, guys. I just wanted to make this quick video explaining what it is that I'm looking at, what it is that you're looking at, and how it works. Yes, the 1984 500 SCC is slowly coming together. All right. I noticed that once I got it idling and driving, there's a bad exhaust leak from up underneath. That's easy to fix. Exhaust leaks are not that hard to fix, guys. So that's once you get that resolved, once I get that resolved, then it'll be a nice, smooth running car. Yeah. All right. I still got to go through the shifting, though. I want to make sure the transmission is solid, but those are just some things that I have to do. I have to fix this issue first and then move forward to the next one. And that is what it is. So here goes the problem. Again, there was tension on this line. This goes from the output of the filter to the main line that runs up to the front of the car. So when I installed the filter, I had it twisted onto here because these don't spin. Maybe because they're old, I don't know. I don't know if they're supposed to be stationary or supposed to spin. This one in particular. So this was to the hard line up top, and this one was to the filter, something like this shape. So when attaching the filter, I was spinning the filter onto this line, and this line was not moving. It might just be rusted in place, I don't know. But I had to twist the filter and tighten it that way on the filter side. But when I did that, I allowed this to turn like this. When I should have kept it stationary like this and just cranked the filter onto it without allowing this line to twist this way. And that put a lot of undue tension on it, which caused it to rupture because these lines are old. Whenever you're dealing with old cars, you're dealing with old lines, and they can't take a lot of tension and pressure like that. Unnecessary. You know, that was unnecessary. So this is totally my fault. I did this. I caused this problem. Just as well as when trying to remove this one from the main line, from the line feed up to the front, it started to tear. You just can't manipulate or over manipulate these lines. They're just not built that way anymore. This is old stuff. Stuff is old. So just keep that in mind, guys, when you're working on these old cars. This is a 1984 500 SCC up there. Man, the more you dig into these cars, the more stuff that you discover. So those lines that I just showed you, the connections that had broke, the tubing itself had broke. I went on ahead and took the compression fittings and removed the actual hose, right? Because I wanted to see exactly what it was that I was dealing with and if it was possible to do my own compression fittings. So I know that these brass compression fittings are on there very, very tight, and they're designed so that it doesn't come apart. Now, I'm sitting here thinking, my 2004 S55 AMG does not have compression fittings on the output of the filter leading to the front, leading to the fuel lines that run to the front, to the fuel injectors. Instead, it has rubber like hose line like this, with a, not this type of spring-loaded fitting, but the type that that you screw on. It is in effect the same as a compression fitting. It compresses onto the hose line, onto the fuel line. These right here are ribbed, so it decreases the likelihood of the line pulling away. Again, these are set compression fittings that once they're on there, they're on there. They don't loosen up. The tension or the pressure distribution is more even because this right here is pressed on and is cramped on, right? So there's several, just like this, you can see it a little bit better. There's several, it's kind of hard to see, but this right here has indentations all the way around. It's crimped on, right? So it's not coming off. But with the good one, maybe not the spring one, because this right here is tension based, but if you use one that has the screw that as you twist it, it tightens up, that's not going anywhere. If Mercedes put that on a high performance S55, a newer 04, then it's okay to do it on this 1985, lower compression, lower powered, 1984 rather, 500 SEC. So what I'm thinking about doing is just putting the proper hose. I have several fuel line hose sizes that I can use. So I'm thinking about just doing that and putting a, the type that you screw on, the fitting onto it, right? Not the spring-loaded one, but the type that screws on. I have a bunch of those. I have a whole assortment of those. So I'm thinking about doing that. This right here being enlarged at the ends also decreases the likelihood of it sliding off once you put the I can't even think what they're called. These things right here. I've just lost it. These right here are the ones that Mercedes uses. Once it tightens onto it like that. Oh yeah, these are the ones that have the screws, right? Goes into it. Now Mercedes does have one on the output. It's a compression type that closes down, it clamps onto it. Oh yeah, clamp. It closes onto it and it locks, right? So it's impossible for it to come off on its own because it overlaps. It's like once it goes on, it grabs onto it like this and it's not coming off. It's like a claw type or a hook or claw. So you have to almost destroy it to break it off. You can reuse it. I have reused them, but it takes some manipulation to break them off, but they're not going anywhere. The ones that are screw on, that has the little screw, I guess those can rust. I don't know. It just depends on the type that you use. So just make sure you use a high quality one, but you can use your own clamps onto these fittings right here. So I think I'm going to do that. It's just a workaround. Now I did order, they didn't have a shorty. Well, it was like $100 for the shorty, about the same length as this one. They make it for the 500 SL. They have a long one, like a generic one that's for the Mercedes of like the various years, like from 82 or 81 through like 94 or something like that. It's a long one with the same threads, the same ends. It would be longer than what I need, but you can make use of that extra tubing and just run it differently, I guess, so that it connects still and serves its purpose. But I'm going to try this. I'm happy to see that once I removed the old hose connectors, that I see that it's smooth, right? If you're going to use a hose, if you're going to use your own fuel line like that, then it needs to be smooth. It can't be scarred up, scratched up, nothing like that. So I had to carefully remove that without doing that. But yeah, I mean, these are just regular ends that can be reconnected to with a proper clamp. I think I'd be able to do that. Now, something I did notice though, this right here is the one that connects to the fuel line that runs to the fuel injectors. This thing was completely clogged up. I removed a piece. It was actually like there was gunk in there. This thing right here was closed up. This stuff right here, I guess, is residue that got past the fuel filter. I don't know, but maybe it's the breaking down of the internals. I don't know, like maybe the inside of the hose broke down. I don't know, but this stuff right here will prevent proper flow. So they make additives and stuff to your fuel that can get rid of these deposits and dirt and grime or whatever this stuff is. This is actually hard. It's almost like rubberized. That's the word. I don't know. It's just like some gunk that was in there. I did not put that in there. When I removed the hose, I saw it. It was funny because I was looking through it. You can look into it. Look. I mean, they're like clogged arteries. You know, that's crazy. But that limits the fuel flow. Anything that inhibits the proper flow of fuel, it's just like having a garden hose that's partially clamped down. This it's just like your arteries, right, that are clogged with crap. Anything that gets in the way of the full capability, the diameter on the inside of this hose, the inner diameter, if anything is blocking that, then you're going to have limited fuel reach the injectors, and your engine performance will be directly affected. It was not designed to be clogged like this, right? So these deposits and stuff right here indicate not only the age of the vehicle, but also the inefficiency of the fuel injectors to properly feed the motor and for you to have proper engine performance. That right there is blockage. You don't like that. You don't want to see that. But that just lets you know that this can happen. There's no way I would have found this out if that line hadn't have ruptured. This was complete blockage, probably just enough for it to saturate and go through. But the high pressure, that puts pressure on the pump. That puts pressure on your whole fuel system. This is, again, a 1984 500 SEC. This right here was completely blocked. A piece, I just knocked a piece out. So what else is in that fuel line? I don't know. But this right here, that sucks. I'm glad I found it. All right, so I'll clean that out. I'll connect the proper hose line to this. If it's tight, I'll clamp it on, and I'll go ahead and make the repair. Okay, so upon further inspection, I do see that this breakdown of stuff that was causing complete blockage, that's from the hose. So when the line broke, it was still sucking or pushing and sucking, and so some of this got caught in the line. So that's what that was. Also, I cleaned out that blockage. That stuff was like rusty metal, just breakdown, filter, line. I don't know what that crap was, but anything that I guess got past the filter itself, just over time, stuff that's in fluid, still built up inside of there and caused a little artery blockage, so to speak. So I cleaned that out too. But that right there, and when I said it felt rubberized, the stuff that came out, that I knocked out previously, that right there is material from the line. That's this stuff right here. So that's the stuff that got sucked in and caused ultimately complete blockage. The car stopped working, stopped running because of course, the compromised fuel line. So that's what that was. But yes, just keep that in mind that over time, this stuff can and will over the years. I mean, this is a 1983. We're talking about almost 40 years ago. When is that 40 years ago? 42 years ago. This car was made. And so just from sitting over time, bad fuel, and just natural breakdown, that's what happens. All right, so I'm good to go. So now I got to find the right hose that provides the right, the proper fitting to this. You want it to be snug. You don't want it to be loose. You don't want air to escape for it to easily slide off. You want it to be on there tight with a clamp, and I should be good. So this is the kind that Mercedes used on their fuel line past the filter going to the fuel injectors. This is the claw type I was referring to. It takes a lot of pressure to lock it. That right there locks on this side right there. See the claws? Yep. This is an excellent one. It's just hard to reuse, but because it's hard to remove, hard to reuse. It's a very hard steel. Very hard, very hard. These right here are used on the Mercedes. A lower pressure line. This is on their ABC return reservoir for the filter. But a good design. Just doesn't close up enough for the application that I need. And these right here, this is another one that Mercedes, well, this was on the 84 SEC. This is, let me see, was it this one? No, this was not. I'm sorry. I'll take that back. This is an aftermarket one, but common, the most common one that has been used in most applications, most cars. Anytime somebody replaces one, they usually put something like this on there. These are reliable, but sometimes they can strip. If you over tighten them and you keep tightening them, they can strip and become useless. This was a Mercedes factory one. This is a good one. This also is a aftermarket one right here. I don't trust just for lower pressure lines, cool, but just the pressure springs I don't really like them for high pressure, like for things such as fuel, something that can become dangerous and can blow up. This is cool for like power steering lines, not this is like the return line, or the return line or the line going into the power steering pump. There's not a lot of high pressure. All right, just suction, not a lot of pressure though. Okay guys, so I'm back at the 500 SCC. So I replaced that line I was referring to. I have it all mounted up, connected. Everything seems to be good assembly wise in the rear regarding the fuel pump, the filter, and the replacement line. I tried to start it up and it was just struggling. Now I know it needs to get the fuel to the front because I drained out the fuel lines while I was replacing that line. So I know you have to prime it, so to speak. You have to turn on the ignition, let the fuel pump build up the pressure. And so I expected it to be a delay, but this was a very bad delay, and it started to stumble and it never created a smooth idle. Instead, it struggled the whole time with dark smoke coming out the exhaust. Now, my theory is this: when that line ruptured and pieces of that fuel line got into the line at the connector, it might have bypassed that connector before it got jammed in the connector. It might have fed into the fuel rail all the way to the front to the distributor, and that's what I'm thinking. It might have happened. And so I'm going to remove the line. I'm not sure which of these lines is directly connected to the line that I replaced, the one that runs all the way back to the fuel filter, the output of the fuel filter. But I'm thinking that maybe this line is clogged. I'm hoping that this little filter, I believe that there's some type of strain or filter in between the input of this into the distributor, might have caught some of that debris. But there's some type of clog there. The car barely wants to start and it struggles. So it's a fuel deficiency. Now, what I did back there should have fixed everything, but I know that that line came apart and some of that stuff got into the line. Like, I visually saw that. I'm wondering if some of it got past that and it's jammed up in this line somewhere else. But I'm going to check this filter here and see if there's any fuel pressure when I try to crank it, if it comes out. I'm guessing as to which line this is. Like, I don't know if it's this line or this line. I think it's the rearmost line, but we'll see here in a second. I disconnected the battery to ground so that there's no sparks or any kind of issue that might, cause this thing to blow up on me once this fuel comes out of this line. But this is all an experiment, guys. Let's see what happens. All right, so a little bit of fuel came out, just a little drippage, right? Not much. I'm not sure if this is the rearmost one is the line from the filter that feeds the distributor, or if it's this one. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this bottle right over here, just like this, at a downward angle, right? And I'm going to start the car. I'm going to connect the battery, crank the car, and see if fuel comes out of there. All right, let's see. Okay, so it looks like no fuel came out of that line, but fuel definitely puddled down there. So it came out of that. So it came out of there and puddled down there. So let me clean that up. Is that the return line? Is that what that is? I don't know. Let's see. Is that maybe the return line? I know there's a line that goes, I don't know where it goes. Back to the tank. I don't know. I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure out this fuel distribution system. Okay, all right, so I reattached that one. Now I detached this one, and what it appears to be, just looking at it, looks like there's a filter. It's an obvious filter right there. All right, so this likely is the one from the fuel pump, fuel pump filter. So what I'm going to do is same thing. I'm going to put this bottle right here, see if anything comes out. Well, I'll angle it so that it doesn't pour back in. But yeah, I'm going to put it right there, see if anything comes out, and I'll let you know if this is the correct hose, if there's blockage, if it's feeding the system. If I turn that key and the fuel pump turns on and it pumps fuel up to this point and it comes out, then I know that I have good fuel flow. There's no restriction. It could be restriction at the filter. I don't know. I got to take that apart. But I do need to know if that pump is sufficiently or efficiently properly pushing enough fuel pressure through the filter all the way up to the front. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I can go back there and disconnect the line that I just installed from the output of the filter to see if fuel is being, pushed out. But that doesn't tell me if it's reaching all the way to the front or not. So I'm starting in the front, and then I'll work my way backwards if necessary. All right. Okay. All right. So when I tilt this line, fuel is coming out. I need to know if pressurized fuel is coming out. I know residual fuel is coming out, but I need to know if pressurized fuel is shooting out. So I had to empty that bottle because it was like dumping out fuel. So that tells me that there is fuel in the line, but is it pushing out when I give it, when I turn the key? All right, so let's see. Oh, there's plenty of fuel coming out. Yeah, that's gas. Oh, it's gas. That is definitely the line. So it is the one closest to the front. That is the line. Now, when I first turned the key, I didn't see any fuel come out. I didn't see it when I first turned the key. Unless I gotta look back at this video. But I was looking through the windshield. But once I was cranking it, oh yeah, it was pouring out like crazy. Good Lord, that's a lot of gas that came out. Is that normal? Just a, God, idle, yeah, idle, that much gas comes out that fast? Goodness gracious. Dang, that's a lot of gas. Okay, so flow is not a problem. That's a lot of gas coming out. Now I just removed this right here. You can see the filter right here. Do you guys see through this filter? I'm gonna look at the sun. Do y'all see anything? No, you can't see through that. What I'm saying is it's blocked. If you can't see the sun through this filter, then that tells me that it is blocked. There's too much blockage. You should be able to see some light. Indicative that this filter, inline filter, is probably blocked, preventing the car from receiving the fuel that it needs. All right, guys, don't try this at home. So here goes the line right here, all right, from the fuel filter output running up to the front. It goes into the distributor right here. I disconnected it from this one right here. Here goes the inline filter. The inline filter was very caked up. It was very dirty. It had a whole lot of little small broken down hose parts that I was talking about. There was a lot of blockage in there. You couldn't even see through it. So I cleaned it out. I actually just used a brake cleaner and also used water and just like pushed it through. I used a little toothpick just to break up some of the hard stuff that was in there. And it's clean now. Now I am running the line, like starting the car or cranking the car so that fuel comes out of here. I added an extension and ran it into this water bottle. I drank all the water out of it. And I'm using that so that I can see if it's clean, if I got all the hose particles out of here. And I've done it a few times. I even use a little filter here to drain this out of and see if there's any fine particles that I can't see or that I can see with the naked eye once I run it through that little filter, a little strainer. Yeah, so the water looks, the gasoline looks good. I'm not seeing any of those little particles coming out. I think it all came through, and that little inline filter caught it all. So I think that was causing some blockage for the fuel flow, and I think that might have been a contributing factor, if not the actual problem, the actual factor. We'll see. I'll put it all together, connect the line, try to crank it, and see what happens. All right, guys, so I got it to work. All right, so that was definitely an issue. I was wondering, it was difficult for it to hold an idle. It was like dying. It only worked if I gave it gas. Giving it gas made it was revving. Gassy smell exhaust. Didn't think that I'd be able to get it to hold idle. When it was like barely trying to idle, I would spray some of this into the intake and it would die out. So it was getting enough fuel for sure. Probably too much fuel. The air fuel ratio wasn't right. So I just held idle and just let it I just started back up and just held the gas, the accelerator, and it held idle. It actually smoothed out and everything as long as I was giving it gas. So it's the air fuel ratio. It wasn't the gas. Once I got the gas going, flowing, it needed it got what it needed in order to keep running. It had to balance out the air intake and all that crap. And obviously it's working now, so I'm happy. So that's what it was. The fuel was blocked. It wasn't getting what it was needed. I know that these cars are designed to try to compensate for lack of fuel with air. If you get too much fuel, not enough fuel, it tries to balance itself out, and it couldn't do what it was supposed to do. So now that I got that blockage removed from that intake and that filter, we're good to go. The fuel is flowing nice and smooth. The engine is running, it's holding idle. I'm happy. Golly. So that was the issue. Let's take a look at this pump. All right. Everything looks good. I'm happy. The car is running. I'm happy. It was dumping too much fuel, I know, into the exhaust, which can mess up the catalytic converter. So you don't want to do that because that can become a whole nother issue. So the car is running now. I'm happy. That belt is a little loose. I mean, it could be fuel injectors might need to be cleaned out. It could use spark plugs. I don't know. It has an exhaust leak. That's obvious. That's what you're hearing down here. When you give it gas, it's louder. But it's holding idle. I'm happy. Success story, baby. Success. Woo! That was the work, bro. A lot of anger, man. Low-key cussing. Y'all ain't hear it though. But I was thinking it. Golly. Success, baby. It's running. That's what the issue was. Thank you everyone who's contributed to the conversation. I asked some questions on Facebook to a lot of different groups for the C126, the 500 SEC, and a lot of people came through and gave me the right information that I needed, man. I thought all hope was lost. After all that work that I did regarding the pump, the filter, and a couple lines in the back, for me to introduce that problem into the system, that line falling apart and getting sucked in, I thought I was done, man. But yeah, that was the correct line right here. That's the line, output, fuel filter. There is a headline filter right there that got past the fuel filter in the back. And like I said, it was caked up with broken down old hose material, the rubber stuff. It was caked up, so it prevented the fuel from flowing through. So that right there is where the gas goes, and then it gets distributed to the fuel injector. The fuel injector spray the fuel, you know, so that the combustion process can happen at the spark plugs, and then the engine can run. So that right there was my issue, man. Fuel blockage. Now it's running. Thank God. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I gotta deal with this exhaust leak. It's all right. That's the least of my worries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.